The rain was coming down in sheets as I drove home, the wipers of my Ford struggling to keep up. I was looking forward to a quiet evening with my wife, Imogen. Id picked up her favorite bottle of Pinot Noir from the wine shop downtown, a small gesture to show her how much I appreciated everything she did. I worked as a software developer for a tech company in Austin, Texas, a job that kept me busy but paid well enough for us to live comfortably in our suburban home. Imogen was a kindergarten teacher, a job she adored, and her passion for her students was something I always admired. As I pulled into the driveway, I noticed Imogen's car wasn't there. That was odd. She usually got home from school by 4 and it was already past 6. I figured she must have had a meeting or was helping a student after hours. I unlocked the front door, the familiar click echoing in the quiet house. "Imogen, I'm home," I called out, but there was no response. I set the wine on the kitchen counter and started to unpack my briefcase. That's when I saw it, a small, folded piece of paper on the kitchen island. It was addressed to me, simply signed, "I am." My heart began to pound as I unfolded the note. The handwriting was unmistakably Imogen's, but the words were like a punch to the gut. "Everett," it began, "I can't do this anymore. I'm leaving. I've found someone else, someone who makes me feel alive in a way I haven't felt in years. Please don't try to find me. I'm sorry." The room started to spin. I sank into a kitchen chair, the note trembling in my hands. Someone else? Who? How? We were happy, weren't we? We had plans, a life together. Or at least that's what I thought. My mind raced, trying to make sense of the senseless. I reread the note, searching for some hidden meaning, some explanation, but there was nothing. Just cold, brutal finality. I got up and walked through the house, each room a painful reminder of the life we had built together. Our wedding photos on the mantelpiece, the cozy reading nook in the living room, the half-finished painting in her art studio, all testaments to a love that now seemed like a lie. I went to our bedroom, the place where we had shared so many intimate moments. Her side of the closet was empty, her clothes gone. It was as if she had vanished, leaving only a ghost of her presence behind. I spent the next few hours in a daze, replaying memories in my head, searching for clues I might have missed. Had I been blind? Had I been so caught up in my own world that I hadn't noticed her unhappiness? I called her phone, but it went straight to voicemail. I texted her, begging her to talk to me, to explain, but there was no response. As the night wore on, the reality of the situation began to sink in. Imogen was gone. She had left me for someone else, and there was nothing I could do to change it. The pain was unbearable, a deep, aching void in my chest. I felt like I was drowning in a sea of sorrow with no land in sight. The next morning, I called in sick to work. I couldn't face anyone, couldn't pretend that everything was okay. I spent the day wandering aimlessly around the house, lost in my thoughts. I looked through her things, searching for some sign, some indication of who this someone else might be. I found nothing, just more reminders of our shattered life. In the afternoon, I decided to go for a drive. I needed to get out of the house to clear my head. I drove aimlessly, eventually ending up at a small park on the outskirts of town. I sat on a bench, watching the children play, their laughter a stark contrast to the turmoil in my heart. As I sat there, I noticed a familiar figure walking towards me. It was Phoebe, Imogen's best friend. Phoebe looked surprised to see me. "Everett, what are you doing here?" she asked, her voice filled with concern. I hesitated for a moment, then decided to tell her everything. I showed her the note, told her about Imogen's disappearance. Phoebe's face paled as she read the note. "Oh, Everett," she said, her eyes filled with sympathy. "I had no idea. Do you know who this someone else is?" I asked, my voice filled with desperation. Phoebe hesitated, her eyes darting away from mine. "I can't say for sure," she said, "but I have a suspicion." "Tell me," I pleaded. "I need to know." Phoebe sighed. "I think it might be Silas," she said. "Silas, Imogen's colleague at the school." I couldn't believe it. Silas was a married man, a father of two. He and his wife Beatrix were always at school events, seemingly the perfect family. "He's seen them together a few times," Phoebe continued. "They seemed close." I didn't want to believe it, but pieces started to fall into place. The late nights at school, the secretive phone calls, the sudden changes in Imogen's behavior, it all made sense now. I felt a surge of anger, a burning rage that threatened to consume me. How could she do this? I asked, my voice shaking with emotion. How could she betray me like this? Phoebe put her hand on my arm. I don't know, Everett, she said. I'm so sorry. I spent the next few days trying to track down Imogen and Silas. I called Silas's house, but Beatrix said he was out of town on a business trip. I knew she was lying. I drove to Imogen's school, hoping to catch a glimpse of her, but she was nowhere to be found. I hired a private investigator, a man named Anselm, to help me find them. Anselm was a gruff, no-nonsense type, but he was good at his job. Within a week, he had located Imogen and Silas. They were living together in a small apartment in Dallas, about 3 hours away from Austin. The news hit me like a ton of bricks. I felt betrayed, humiliated, and heartbroken. I couldn't understand how Imogen could throw away our life together for Silas, a man who was clearly a selfish, opportunistic womanizer. I decided to confront them. I drove to Dallas, my heart pounding with a mixture of anger and fear. I found the apartment building and parked across the street. I waited for hours, watching the entrance until finally I saw them. Imogen and Silas walked out of the building holding hands. They looked happy, carefree, as if they didn't have a care in the world. I crossed the street and confronted them. Imogen, I shouted. How could you do this to me? Imogen's face turned pale when she saw me. Everett, she said, her voice trembling. What are you doing here? I came to find out why, I said, my voice filled with anger. Why did you leave me? Why did you betray me? Silas stepped forward, his eyes narrowed. This is none of your business, Everett, he said. Imogen and I are together now. You need to leave us alone. Leave you alone, I said, my voice rising. You stole my wife. You destroyed my life. It wasn't like that, Imogen said, her voice pleading. Everett, I wasn't happy. I needed something more. More, I said, my voice incredulous. What more could you possibly want? I gave you everything. You gave me a comfortable life, she said, but you didn't give me passion. You didn't make me feel alive. Her words cut me like a knife. I realized that she had never truly loved me, that our marriage had been a sham. I turned and walked away, my heart shattered into a million pieces. I returned to Austin, feeling defeated and alone. I filed for divorce and started the process of rebuilding my life. It was a long and painful journey, but I was determined to move on, to find happiness again. A few months later, I received a phone call from Beatrix, Silas's wife. She had found out about the affair and had kicked Silas out of the house. She was devastated and heartbroken, just like I had been. We met for coffee and shared our stories. We talked about the pain, the betrayal, the anger. We found solace in each other's company, a sense of understanding that no one else could provide. Over time, Beatrix and I became close friends. We supported each other through the difficult times, helping each other to heal and move on. Eventually, our friendship blossomed into something more. We fell in love, slowly and unexpectedly. We found happiness together, a love that was based on honesty, trust, and mutual respect. We learned from our past mistakes and built a new life, a life that was filled with joy and laughter. As for Imogen and Silas, their relationship didn't last. Silas eventually left Imogen for another woman, leaving her heartbroken and alone. She tried to contact me to apologize, but I refused to speak to her. I had forgiven her, but I couldn't forget what she had done. I realized that sometimes the best revenge is to move on and find happiness. Imogen's betrayal had been a painful chapter in my life, but it had also led me to Beatrix, the woman who truly loved me for who I was. Life has a funny way of working out. What seems like a tragedy can sometimes turn into a blessing in disguise. I am grateful for the lessons I learned and for the love I found. I am finally at peace, knowing that I am exactly where I am supposed to be.